Well, I took the day off of work because I wanted to get a bunch of stuff done. The weather was nice, and I had lined up the few days before that. I had lined up a bunch of stuff to get the corn off the field. I was getting ready to head out the door. It was 11 o'clock, and my wife Lisa said, "Are you going to grab your phone?" And I said, "No, I'll probably just lose it or break it or something, so I'll leave it here." And she said, "All right, be safe," you know. And jumped on the tractor and headed out to the field to start picking corn, and I got about halfway around the field or so. I was kind of in a hurry, like I said. I wanted to get a bunch done that day, so I jumped off real quick, left it running, which I shouldn't have, but I walked around behind the wagon and the picker and stuff and checked the ground and everything, make sure it wasn't missing nothing or whatever. And then I thought, well, I'll just double check the moisture of the corn and stuff. And what I usually do is I grab a cob and bust it in half and look at the grains of corn. I knew better. I don't know why I did it, because there was a field of corn around me and everything, but I went to grab a cob of corn out of the husking bed out of the picker, and as soon as I reached in there, my right hand got caught in the rollers of the husking bed and started pulling my right hand in. So when that happened, just natural instinct, I went to plant my left hand against a machine to give me leverage to pull. So I was pulling on my right hand because my fingers were already in, and as I was pulling and focused on my right hand, all of a sudden I felt my left hand getting pulled another direction, and my left hand got caught on another roller. It was being twisted and wrapped around the roller backwards. At that point, both my arms were getting pulled in. So I took my head and I planted it against the machine as a brace, and I had my head planted against it, and I was pulling on both my arms at the same time. I was there, I don't know how long, a couple minutes or something, and I knew I was getting tired, and I knew I was losing ground, and more was getting pulled into the machine on both my arms, and I had to do something. I was thinking to myself, I'm just going to keep going, getting pulled in, and I'm going to die in this machine. And I was thinking about Lisa and my kids and stuff. At that point, I don't really remember any pain. I remember some pain when my right hand first got pulled in, but then after that, I don't remember much pain. At that point, yeah, I took my right hand, or my right arm, what was left, and I gave it a hard jerk, and I felt the bone snap and feed through the machine. And then, like, the skin and the meat and the tendons were still hooked up, so I kept twisting my right arm back and forth and rubbing it up and down on those shafts that were spinning, and finally my arm separated from my hand and my hand fed through. I was alongside of our township road here, the gravel road, and I thought, well, if people driving by will see blood, maybe they'll stop. So I turned my body kind of halfway around as far as I could with my left hand still stuck, and I took my stump, and it was spraying blood, so I tried to squirt blood on the side of the machine because I was hoping people would see the blood spray. So I did that just for a few seconds or something. Then I turned back around towards the machine, and I took my right stump and I jammed it into my shoulder of my coat to above my heart to try to slow the bleeding down and keep compression on it. When I turned back towards the machine, I looked at my left arm, and I seen my hand wrapped underneath my forearm, kind of like a hose reel. It was wrapped all the way around it, like a turn and a half. And when I turned back, I felt the shaft by my feet going back and forth. So I kind of gingerly put my foot on there, because I didn't want something else to get stuck. When I did that, it slowed this one down. So then I stepped on it with all my body weight and wedged my steel toe of my boot in between that and the machine, and bent that rod, and it stopped this shaft from turning for my left. I couldn't get it to spin backwards. I couldn't get my arm out of it, but at least it wasn't pulling me in anymore. So then at that point, I kept my foot wedged in there with my boot, and my arm was jammed in there, and I just kind of tried to keep myself awake so I wouldn't go into shock. I would, go from like prayer and thinking about my wife and kids to getting mad and frustrated and trying to pull my arm back, but I couldn't. And then I would start to get tired and kind of put my head down, and I knew a bunch of time went by. I seen a few cars go by and stuff, and I'd be yelling and screaming and hoping they would stop, but they didn't. Finally, There's one time I kind of had my head down and I was just trying to stay awake and thinking about my family, and I heard the tractor idle down and shut off, and I thought, oh, thank God, someone finally stopped. So here is our neighbor, Kevin Molitor. He was actually on his tractor doing some field work too, and he noticed that I wasn't moving and stuff, and the machine was still running. After he shut the tractor off, he walked around it and he hollered, you know, do you need help or are you fixing it? And I said, no, I'm stuck. Help me get out. So then he disconnected the PTO shaft from the tractor and grabbed a bar or whatever and was spinning the picker backwards so I could feed my arm back out. And I said, that's good, you know. So he ran over by me, and there was a whole bunch of my sleeve and coat and stuff stuck. So then my arm was out, so he just grabbed a knife and he cut the rest of my coat off and everything. He said, let's help you over to the edge of the road. And as we were walking to the edge of the road, he was helping me. Dennis Sobiek, he was driving by, and Kevin yelled at him to go call 911 that I was stuck in the machine. He ran up to the house here and called 911 because he didn't have a cell phone. I was, what should we do till the ambulance gets here? You know, I don't know what to do. And I said, do you got any twine string on your tractor? And he said, no. I said, well, take the string out of the hood of my jacket and take the string out of the hood of your jacket and put a tourniquet on both my arms. And he goes, I don't know how, I've never done it. And I said, so I walked him through it. I said, put it below my elbows, try to save my elbows, and tourniquet my arms. So he did that. As we were doing that, that's right when the sheriff pulled up in the ambulance.